Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the London Business School presentation on the first year of our Masters in Analytics and Management. Yes, thank you very much for your time in advance. I am going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to be joined by two of our fabulous colleagues. So I'm Hema Solanki. I work on the MAM program as part of the recruitment team. I'm today joined by Nilisha Patel and Stephanie Rodriguez. Nilisha, do you want to pipe in there quickly and just introduce yourself? You're on mute.
Classic 2020 phrase. Welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon for me. I'm actually not technically on campus. It's much cloudier in London, but the joys of Zoom. Pleasure to be with you today. So as Emma mentioned, I am currently transitioning out of the role of MAM Program Director into the Executive Director for All Programs role. So I've been at the school for 9 years and I have worked across various areas of the business. I feel as though, particularly the last 18 months have been really, really poignant. First of all, we set up and launched the MAM program, and that's what we're here today to talk about how that first year has gone. And thankfully we have Stephanie, a wonderful MAM first year student. And also, we also welcomed our second class onto campus literally last week. So hopefully I can share some insights from that too. But real pleasure to be with you today. So do ask as many questions as you can of both of us while you have us.
Stephanie, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Stephanie. I just finished up the MAM 2020, the first cohort. It was a really great experience. Prior to that, also while I was at LBS, I was also the academic representative. So I was definitely very involved, worked very closely with Nilisha. And prior to that, I was in tech consulting with Deloitte. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so just moving on. This is just the overview of our presentation. So we're going to I'm just going to go over the first year of the MAM, the student's journey, which the floor is going to be taken by Nilisha and Stephanie, and they will walk through the whole program. And after that, you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions. So get them all ready. A brief overview on who we are. Obviously, LBS, fantastic school. And I'm not saying that because I work for the institution. It has achieved its reputation through sheer input by the school and the team that work behind the scenes. So our brand, the reputation and the ranking speaks for itself. And we strive to maintain and build on that continuously. So when you do look at the school, please always consider the reputation, because behind the reputation, there is a solid group of individuals who make that happen. And obviously being based in London, it is really a beautiful city, and having a location in the heart of London works for your whole experience. So that's who we are. Now our faculty, it's world renowned, and we have a really good mix of individuals. We have the full-time faculty members, the lecturers, who are totally immersed into teaching you. Then we also have individuals who work in industry and who also teach at other schools. So they have real-time experience that they're bringing on board. And one classic example is our old dean, Sir Andrew Lickerman. Look him up. He is quite a formidable character. So these are the kind of individuals who are going to be imparting their knowledge, their learning, their research experiences to you, with you. And they're also backed up by business experts who are influential in their field, or experts in their field, who come on board and who will again give you their time. So this is the exposure you get when you're a student. Our diversity, it's immense. We attract individuals from all over the world. It is hugely global, and that again forms a really strong peer group for you. Yeah, you learn from each and every one of them. And with the diversity, we also have the student life, the activities. I always say, don't just focus on academics, also make time for doing non-academic stuff, because that develops you as an individual, that develops you to be an all-rounded person as you go into the next phase of your life. the network. So the diversity, the people who come on board from all over the world, that is your network. Now that opens up your conversations and global opportunities. Do not underestimate this. Please make the most of this network that we present to you. It stays with you for life. And then our career center, they are the biggest amongst schools at our level. Very well researched in what they do. They have experts in their own fields and they work with you from day one. And both Nilisha and Stephanie will expand on that. So in a nutshell, this is who we are, and we're backed up by our reputation ranking, the students we bring on board, and our strong alumni network. I'm going to now launch into so the MAM journey that's been experienced both by Stephanie, and obviously Nilisha has a strong input in it. So I'm going to fire away some questions to both you ladies. The first question I'm going to ask you, so both of you will have different perspective. Orientation day. Stephanie and Nilisha, pipe in there. Share your feelings, how it all transpired for you.
Yeah,
Over to you.
it was an incredibly exciting time. I mean, it's probably one of the most exciting times just because you don't really have expectations at that point, and you're really meeting people from all over the world. The diversity is incredibly apparent during the first day, and you just continue to mingle with them, and that's kind of where the networking begins. I don't want to put a word to it. Really, you're making friends, and it's a really organic setting to kind of get the ball rolling on that, and establishing those relationships really early on are so helpful throughout the rest of the quarter, because it's really collaborative environment, especially the MAM, where you have a lot of like group work and things like that. So there's a lot of working together, and that kind of kicks off during the orientation.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. And just to kind of add in on that point, you know, we really we invest a lot of our kind of time and energy into making sure the orientation, not only the day but also that kind of onboarding phase, is really it's really well designed. It's really thought through. We're there. We want you to be part, you know, start to feel part of that community. There's so much to take in at that point. There's so many people to kind of meet and understand more about kind of how the school operates and what expected of you. And so we really try and make sure that you're meeting, kind of you're hearing from, you're meeting, and you're getting insights from lots of key stakeholders across the organization, and giving you as much opportunity to connect as possible. Obviously this year has been slightly different for us. You know, we have had a virtual orientation, which I have to say in the beginning I was a little bit, you know, when we were setting that up, I was like, how are we going to recreate this kind of the inspiring, the feel good element of that first kickoff day, and being able to kind of access alumni, share insights, all of those kind of things. But it was a really, really fantastic day, and ongoing. All I've had is positive feedback so far from all of our students. You know, we've had to rethink how we've done things, and that's a great thing, and we will continue to evolve depending on what next year looks like, and we'll definitely take lessons from all face-to-face to also, you know, hybrid and virtual, and there's lessons we can take forward for the benefit of everyone. But that orientation point is just a really exciting, inspirational point for you to kind of really start to take a step back and think about, what is my purpose, what do I want to achieve here, who are these people around me, and how can I build my connections and really set the pathway for my journey ahead.
Brilliant. That's so good. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen out there, just remember, everyone else is in the same boat as you. Nobody really knows anybody. So don't feel that, oh my God, I am the only person who is new to this. So yeah, so orientation, it can be daunting, but the school and the team make it as welcoming as we possibly can. Okay, so Stephanie, moving on. Obviously, the MAM, you're the first cohort. The expectations, you have a certain numbers of expectations. And I know we met them, but just tell us a little bit about those expectations and how the whole team delivered those. And I know they went beyond that too.
Yeah, absolutely. They did go beyond, especially in the quantitative area and learning those technical skills. I was actually really impressed at the end of it, especially if you start and you don't have those skills. It's really rewarding to look back and see how proficient you've become at something, and the LBS faculty and the program like really prepare you, and the foundations of it and the way that the program is structured kind of eases you into it, and to a point where you find that you're really proficient at coding and things like that. And not just that element, they always layer it with the business use case, which was a selling point for me in deciding to go to LBS, was learning these technical skills, but also understanding why it was important. That was never forgotten. And so they absolutely met my expectations and beyond, and especially outside of the academics itself. When they tell you it's going to be a busy year, they mean it, and in the best way.
That's
I know.
true.
So, Nalisha, you were instrumental in designing. Obviously, you had to achieve those expectation levels, and you delivered them. But yeah, just throw a little bit more light onto from the school's perspective and how the student and you met at that sort of midpoint.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it was, as with everything really at LBS, it was very much a community effort. You know, when we were designing and building the program, you know, that was an effort from all of our subject areas, heavily involved with a number of people from industry, with our alumni. And that was how we started to build the program, looking at what recruiters needed, looking at kind of with the career center, you know, what kind of jobs are out there that aren't, where skills aren't being met. And it was really that fusion between business and analytics, as we've kind of talked extensively about on this program. And we went through, you know, in the first year, and as really, I've got to say, huge testament to Stephanie. We worked really closely to ensure that we were kind of tweaking along the way. We were responding to things quickly, and I'm really pleased with the setup for this year, because we've had a lot of feedback and things that we can again continue to tweak as we always do with all of our programs. But it was a real, you know, joint effort across our community, including everyone, including the students, and that it was a real proud moment, I think, for us to get to to get to the point of launch, but then to also work through the program, and then obviously COVID hit. And for us to be able to, you know, move everything virtually and still be able to successfully graduate everyone was a really, you know, it was a real test of many characters across the organization, and students and alumni, and we really came together, and it was really nice. It was a really proud moment.
Yeah, definitely. And just to really hit the nail on that point, that these are really skills that recruiters are looking for. And when Alicia said that they made the program around that, I mean, you could definitely feel it. I left a strategy and analytics position because I wanted to learn these skills, and these were skills that, you know, I was being told I should learn. And now that I'm out, you know, either looking for a job or exploring other paths, it comes back over and over and over again. All the things that I've learned are top skills that people are constantly looking for. So they're really satisfied to hear that, oh, you can code in R, you know, basic data management systems, and it ticks all those boxes. So it's really satisfying.
I know. So true. You guys have hit it on the head, because, you know, we are preparing you for to be good managers out there with these two very sort of important skills, management skills combined with coding, be able to read data, translate data. That's the whole beauty about this program. So I'm going to move on to the faculty. And in our faculty, there are, okay, tell me, how did they make you think outside the box? What did they do to really make you push the boundaries? Because that's who we are. We don't take you just for you. We want you to grow tremendously.
Yeah.
So what did they do, and how did all that work for you as a student?
So I think it really stemmed from the fact that the faculty themselves have had experience in industry, and I think that's the ultimate factor that pushed students to think outside of just the theory and understanding the technology or the algorithm. It was, well, how will you use this in a business setting, and why is this important? And it really challenged us to be a bit creative about the different ways that we could apply what we've learned to solve different business problems. And that's not something that you would naturally perhaps do if you were just strictly learning introduction to R, introduction to coding. So in that respect, it was definitely pushing me outside of my comfort zone and really challenging what I think this technology is about. And there have been many of my MAM colleagues who have gone on to build really cool stuff to solve really interesting problems, especially within COVID. And so the creativity and the growth kind of transcends past just being in the classroom.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. I hope Stephanie will be able to, as we go on through the webinar, pull out a few examples, because I know that there's some fantastic ones. I just wanted to add that, you know, one of the things that's really important to us about the design of these programs is that they are built with the fact that the real world isn't just set in boxes. It isn't just set with one way of doing things. Things come with ambiguity, things come with complexities, and things, you will plan them, and that, you know, you might have an end goal in sight and it will not most likely go that way. And so one of the key examples of that, and I think is one of the key parts of our training, is the fact that, you know, even across all of your faculty, they won't agree on the same way of doing things. And that questions your ability to think about how you apply what you've learned to the scenario, given you have context across lots of different options. And that's the difference, I think. Hopefully Stephanie will agree, about going to a business school where, you know, people have been using methods in the industry in lots of different ways, and as opposed to, as a school, we deliver this particular subject in this particular way. You know, there's opportunities to really explore, particularly in the world of data, as we know, there is not just one cookie cutter way to do things, and you being able to hone your critical thinking and your independent thinking is one of the key lessons of the program.
Brilliant.
Absolutely, that's very true. I've had professors teach it to me 3 different ways, and they're all correct, and they'll all stand by their way is the way. But it's so necessary to know that there are different dimensions to looking at one problem.
Oh, definitely. I like that. And, you know, it just helps you develop. I think just having it from 3 or 4 different perspectives makes you realize that I can approach it different ways. So yeah, thank you for that. So the community, as I said, you know, we've got a global community. Now, how easy was it to immerse yourself into this global individuals, you know, individuals from all parts of the world who speak different languages, who think differently, eat different food, and just immerse yourself and then sort of get involved in events with them, or sort of, etc. Tell us more about it, because this all forms part of the program.
I think it's more difficult to resist it, to be honest. It is such a part of LBS's DNA, is to be inclusive and to have this diversity. And so it's so difficult to not get involved. All of your friends are from all over the world, and all of your friends will either be a part of the Spanish club or the LATAM club, or they'll be a part of like the Asia club, or they'll be a part of, you know, the consulting club, all sorts of different facets, and they will all invite you to the events that their club is doing. So in one shape or form, you will either be sitting on a wine tasting that you weren't even a part of that club for, and be eating Spanish food the next week, or dancing with the Indian club. It's great. And it's so easy to get involved, and it's harder to say no. So my little niches were the tech and media club. Because of my background and my interest in technology, that's just kind of where I dedicated most of my time to. And I led this, or I was supposed to, COVID and everything, but I was supposed to lead the Silicon Valley track. And you have people from all over the world who are all interested in tech, brainstorming a really cool 1-week experience for a group of 20 students. And you got to speak with technologists from all over the world. Obviously, we were speaking to people in Silicon Valley, which was great, from Facebook, Google, LinkedIn. So we had built something really amazing. Obviously, it didn't come to fruition because of COVID, but it was on the precipice of being something really awesome. And it was such a defining moment for me. And like, this is such a global community that no matter where I'm interested in looking into, there will probably be an LBS person there. And the Women in Business Club and Out in Business Club are also 2 organizations that I was really involved with. And so I attended their conferences, all really fun.
Brilliant. And Alicia, do you have a part to play, like in any of these clubs, or just a social aspect?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I guess I can talk from 2 lenses here, really. You know, I work very closely with the SA and also many of the club leaders in terms of, you know, whether the program is looking for, you know, any day of the week, I could probably call up anyone in any country, in any sector, whether an alumni or a student, and either, you know, get some advice or connect someone with a project, connect someone for a speaker event. And it often, you know, I'll be working with clubs on things like that, which is really nice. And on a more, you know, I guess more personal level, you know, I've made many, you know, good friends and really close connections and acquaintances through my years here at LBS, through, you know, faculty, alumni, students, and it really is a really close community in that respect. And that the diverse element, as Stephanie says, it's just kind of part and parcel, and you become very used to it, actually, that actually when you are not in that diverse environment, it becomes very, very stark to you that it's not. So that's an interesting mind, a little shift in lens, I think, for many people. But it's a good shift, and it's a really special thing to be somewhere so diverse. We are probably amongst all the business schools. I mean, obviously, you know, definitely compared to our US competitors, we are very, very diverse, and that's a very special thing.
Very true, very true. And I was going to add on to that. So it's like the community does come into play when you are looking for, like, when just from other students, that when they're looking to get validation on how do I do my interview, how do I approach a particular company or somebody, the community does come in. So this is where the alumni community steps in, and you will find, like you said, Stephanie, a connection somewhere who will guide you, who will talk to you, who will give you the time. And I think that's the beauty of the LBS community whilst you're on campus, and then beyond that too. Beautiful. So you told us why you sort of chose those clubs, and I think the other thing I can stress, ladies and gentlemen, is that we do have lots of clubs, and please join one, if not two. I would say make it a prerequisite together with your academics. It is all part of your personal development. So yeah. So Stephanie, the gifts that you undertook, what made you decide on that particular one?
Yeah. So I was on the South Africa gift, and this is kind of one of the more social impact gifts. I think there are kind of like two types that you could take. I think there was a tech-centric one, correct me if I'm wrong, and the other was more social impact. And so I wanted to, go somewhere that I've never been before, which was South Africa at the time, and I wanted to know that what I did at the end of the week had an impact for somebody. And so I'm not sure if anyone's read up about what the gift is, but it's essentially a 1-week project where you go to a different country, and this will probably be different this year, but you go to a different country and you meet with a client. And for the social impact instances, it'll be some kind of, obviously, social impact group. Mine was an environmentally friendly FMCG that was hoping to expand their business. And she was an incredibly sweet woman. And it's usually very small businesses, so you can really get your hands dirty and be really involved and be as impactful as you want to be. And so I chose that gift for that reason, and also to explore a new place. She's actually still in contact with me, and she tells me how the project is going and how we've made an impact, and how she continues to use the insights that we have provided her. So it was an incredibly fun trip. Also, loads of bonding. You meet people from all over the program. So that's one thing, is that you are not confined to, like, the MAM is a small cohort because it's just one stream. And so in this instance, I met people from the finance program and also the Masters in Management. And it was like orientation all over again, pretty much. Like, you don't really know these people and you have to bond with them. And it was probably one of the highlights of the year.
When did you take your gift in that 12 months? Was it term 2, 3?
December. So I think that'd be like term 1.
End of term.
And it was December in South Africa. It was wonderful. So it was such a treat.
No, it is. No, and Alicia, in terms of, like, how are the gifts going to be? I know it's the unknown at the moment, but how are they going to be transpiring this year?
So as per safety and travel guidelines, you know, we will be working around those. What we've been doing with some of our, I mean, just to go back one step to talk about a couple of highlights, just following on from what Stephanie said, is that, you know, this is quite common that people have those lasting impact or connections with people that they're working with, either micro entrepreneurs or small companies that are doing kind of really interesting things, or even, you know, some of the larger companies, you know, that they might have been able to really take some inspiration from some of those visits and apply it to some of the startups that we have seen come out of the programs. But going forward, yes, obviously that we are so dependent on the world situation at the moment. We are continuing to work globally, you know, with projects, and we're doing a lot of things remotely. And one of the things I've got to say that's been really interesting for us in terms of kind of global community, and, you know, not just isolated to the global trips, but even kind of some of the other projects that we work on across the school, and kind of guest speakers. We've actually been in closer touch and had more access to people in more countries than ever before because of being able to do that virtually. And that's actually been quite an exciting thing. We have launched a number of social impact projects over the COVID period to support people affected in other countries, and help them work through and navigate. And we never would have had the opportunity to work with some of those organizations before.
I did one of those. Yeah.
There we go. And so, we're constantly evaluating the situation, and same with the return to campus. But, you know, at the moment we plan to continue on, and we will always be a global business school. There will always be global elements and experiential elements of these programs. And we will go as we can, where we can, safely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Sorry to put you on the spot there, but I just wanted people to know that LBS is doing everything possible to make the student's journey as most interesting and as immersive under the current situation. So we're managing it, and I would say we're managing it really well. I don't want to like blow our trumpet, but the team have worked really hard, and the current students will tell you, and the new students, and we've had amazing sort of enrollment. So I just, ladies and gentlemen out there, if you have any reservations on how the year is going to transpire, please don't be too sort of concerned, because we work really hard. And like Nalisha and her team and Stephanie will tell you that we deliver above and beyond, and that's our goal. So thank you. Sorry, did you want to
speak? Yeah, I wanted to actually talk on that. So that's been the plus side actually of all of this. So you may not physically be able to go somewhere, but the amount of speakers that LBS gets to come speak with us, because everything is virtual now, is incredible. Like, you get really, really cool speakers to come. And the other day I was in talk with the CEO for the Economist group, and I had asked her a question, and it was intimate as well. I mean, there were probably like 15 people in this talk, and you get so many more of these types of intimate chats just because people are available virtually. So there's definitely a plus side to it.
Yes, definitely. And I think, building on what I'd mentioned earlier about some of the things that we've learned from the last 6 months, and what some of the things that we'll take forward when we kind of go back to, a more kind of full face-to-face learning experience is definitely, these are, we've implemented a lot of technology this year that we'll continue to use, even if we're back to face-to-face, and be able to remote our speakers in, and people will be very used to that now. So some really good takeaways.
Yeah, it's true. We've all learned something new, and it's a new journey, and we've evolved very well. So I'm going to ask you, Stephanie, sort of a challenge, or maybe a couple of challenges you may have had during the MAM journey. I know you had a certain background, but just coming on board after working and being a student again, having a very jam-packed calendar, and wanting to do lots more at the same time.
So
how did you do that balance and negotiate the balance?
So I'll share what others have shared with me as their challenge, which was the time commitment and just balancing everything. That is such a classic problem at LBS, because there's always 20 things going on and you want to do all of them. And so I think I fell victim to this despite warning during the first term. And I definitely signed up for everything that I possibly could. And I had to have a notebook that strictly laid out, sometimes by the hour, what I was doing and when I was doing it. So that's how I managed it. And then I eased up come term 2 and term 3. So that was probably my biggest challenge, was balancing everything on my plate with being academic rep, being an MAM, doing recruiting, wanting to get involved with the TMC, wanting to go to the wine and spirits clubs and all the other events that I was being invited to. So there's a lot cooking. And beyond that, a unique challenge being that the MAM is incredibly technical degree. And so there's a steep learning curve for those who don't have a technical background prior to coming, R and Python. And so the first 3 weeks, I think, were the toughest for me, just because you're being introduced into a completely new language. and also everything that's going on at the same time. And so that was a massive challenge. And I got through it ultimately on the back of all of the community and other people who were struggling with it, and a handful of perhaps like 3 or 4 students who did computer science and were so kind enough to help out the others who had no technical experience. So it was definitely a collaborative effort is what pulled me out of the misery of trying to learn something I'd never done before.
I know. And Alicia, do you want to like get your angle on this one?
Absolutely, and I think that, you know, I never sugarcoat anything coming into these programs. They are, you know, they're really challenging, and as Stephanie said, you know, a lot of it and some of the key things that I say at the beginning are about time management. It's really hard. I mean, it's hard at the best of times, but when you've got so many things that you want to do, and you know, in a finite amount of time, it's really important that you're able to manage your time and also manage your own boundaries. Because one of the things I also tell people is that they need to look after themselves throughout these programs, because you know, you have got a full-on year, and most likely you're going to go very soon into a very full-on role too, you know, because of the ambitions of the students that come here. And so there's a real balancing act of how to manage that. And one of the other things, and I'm really pleased that, you know, wellbeing is getting a lot of attention at the moment. It's a really key thing that we think about at the school, and we note very heavily. And I think that there's one of those things is around that kind of taking care of yourself, the boundary piece, but also, you know, it's so easy to get very caught up, I think, at LBS, because there's lots of high achievers, there's lots of people doing lots of different things, and it's sometimes really hard to come back to your sense of what you're there for, what your goals are. And I always remind people of that, because, you know, some people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm behind, or, you know, I feel other people are, you know, have got a job or have done this or have done that, and I'm not there. And you just have to go at your pace. You have to work out what's important to you, and it will be challenging, you know, and some people will come with a view that I'm coming here for this, and at the end I'm going to do this, and this is what it's going to look like. Well, you know, in reality, no one's you know, plans ever go exactly, very rarely, let's face it, exactly the way that they want them to. Let's take the last year, for example. And so for me, it's about embracing the fact that things will be changed, and that that's an exciting thing. Like, it's exciting to not know exactly what the route is to your destination. So those are kind of my tips around managing those challenges.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I think
Insightful. Sorry,
there's
go
a
ahead.
deep feeling of like fear of missing out when you're in business school. Like, there's always something like, well, I'm going to this event, or I'm going to see this speaker, I'm going to go to this recruiting event, and you feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by not utilizing your time and getting as much juice as you can out of your LBS experience. But there is really a point at which it starts to hurt you when you try to over apply yourself. And so focusing your efforts is my biggest tip. It's like, know why you're there and know what you want out of it, and try to cut out all the other stuff that you don't need to be doing.
Oh,
So there'll be plenty.
Brilliant, thank you. That's really useful information. Thank you. Brilliant. I'm going to ask you, Stephanie, about the guidance that the careers team the involvement and the guidance and the path that they work towards for you. Explain, tell us.
Yeah.
I know they put you through the rigmarole. I know they start from the basics of the CV right through the journey. But if you can talk a little bit more about it, because it'll be great to know how that part of LBS also works with you.
Yeah, so the Career Center is super involved, just as involved as the PO almost, program office. And so they have like their set courses that you take that teaches you how to like build your CV, what to screen for, cover letter building, practicing your little story, like what's my story pitch that you will always serve at the beginning of an interview, and how to present and how to speak in front of a classroom, or I guess that's BCS, or business communication skills. But there are a set course that Career Center does provide for you, which is super foundational for starting off the recruitment season and the year. And from there, they are so available. If you need help specifically with your CV, with your cover letter, you can set up time with the Career Center and they will make the time for you. And it's always been, I've never felt lost, or I've never felt like I couldn't get the help that I needed when it came to understanding an industry, understanding how to interview for a specific company, or deciding between consulting or the tech industry, there will be people specific to each of those areas that will tell you this is how it is in this industry and this is how it is in this industry. So there's always confidence that they were well informed and they knew what they were talking about. Especially crucially during COVID, when things don't go as you'd planned, and they have an ear to the ground on what's happening with the industry, on who's recruiting, why perhaps maybe they would have paused it, and what you should expect. And so that was, if in fact, because of COVID, the Career Center really, I think, really shined in this period, and they really helped a lot of students through a period where they thought things would be sorted. So, and up until now, actually, I've had 3 1-hour sessions with the Career Center these past 2 weeks, and I'm an alumni. They are always available and willing to help you achieve a goal if you have something coming around the corner, like an interview.
Brilliant, brilliant. I know. Nalisha, I was going to just pipe in before you, Nalisha, just to let you know,
Sure.
ladies and gentlemen, that the careers team works with you post-graduation. That's the beauty about our Career Center. They don't just leave you, and that's it. They will guide you. They will, assist you. But Nalisha, anything else you can add to from your experience?
Absolutely. And we this is a journey for life. That's how we talk about being part of our community. There will be and will be continue to add to how we further kind of engage with you as alumni. But there is a dedicated careers resource. We'll also be working on specific kind of modules and things that help with career transitions or startups, things that you might do a couple of years out of the program as well. And I guess just to pick up on some of the questions that are coming through the Q&A chat, there's some good questions around this, which are kind of, what are typical careers that people have gone into, whether consulting is a good option. And so consulting, yes, absolutely. That's a big area, and obviously because consulting is such a broad field as well, and also particularly we're starting to see a lot of those recruiters needing these skills. And much as Stephanie mentioned, she's come from a strategy role, looked and saw that these are the things that she needed, and has come and got them. But also we have a lot of tech firms. Recruiting. We also, someone's mentioned about coming from a pharmaceutical background. We have people going to pharma tech. Definitely, we've had a couple of examples of that. And then also, we have people going into finance, to people doing startups. So there is a real spread. And Stephanie, I don't know whether you want to share any particulars from your classmates.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a massive spread within the MAM. It's not cookie cutter, but in the best way possible, in the sense that you feel empowered to pursue any direction career that you'd like, because these are foundational skills that most corporates are looking for. And so consulting, absolutely. Niche, different types of consulting, like technology consulting or like farm tech consulting or health tech consulting. Outside of that, I know many of my colleagues have gone on to be data analysts, which is something in between a data science role and a business analyst role. And those who really are keen on being a data scientist have put in the work, and they could qualify for that as well. And people have gone into Amazon and things like that in the operations side of the house, where analytics is also super important. So the sky is really the limit after this. I mean, you could really choose the direction you want to take, but many do go into consulting and some other corporate.
Brilliant. Oh, that's actually, I want to do the program. Okay, before we head to the Q&A, Stephanie, one last thing. I want to share one experience that really has had a profound impact on you, the MAM experience.
Yeah, I think it would have to be the South Africa trip. I think that was one of the more visceral moments where you realize your skills could be so helpful for somebody who doesn't have the same resources as you do. And the LBS team managed to bring on some people who are really on the ground and helping these small businesses. And so that was probably the most real moment that I've had. They really take you to the areas of South Africa that were struggling. And so that will stick with me forever.
Fantastic. Nalisha, you want to add anything there?
So many highlights of the program.
Okay.
I mean, look, I come at it from a slightly different lens. But for me, it's the culmination, and actually, it's slightly different this year. But I'm looking forward to our slightly. We're hoping to reconnect next year all together as a class. But But for me, it's about, you know, meeting everyone in orientation and that feeling, that sense of anticipation, the excitement, the aspiration, and seeing in such a short amount of time, a year, you know, when people finish the program, like how they've grown. It's a really spectacular feeling, actually, and just so it's very rewarding from being on the LBS side. Hemra, I'm sure you'll agree from that perspective.
And I mean, for you were there from inception, and you've seen through to year one, and just to see that rewards coming through, and I think it's just, yes, tremendous. So yeah, you've done really well. Well done. I'm gonna open the floor. So I'm going to stop sharing and just look at all the questions that are coming through, and we are going to. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you want to start looking at. Okay.
Sure. So oh God, sorry.
Sorry. If you want to, if you guys also want to answer the questions, please go ahead, because sometimes I'm reading some and then answering. But if you feel that there's anything that's really
Sure. So maybe actually, Hemra, I can ask you a couple that I've been spotting.
Yes, please. Yes, go ahead.
And then more around kind of admissions and recruitment. So maybe we can start off with those ones and then dive back into the program.
Yes.
So there's a couple here around kind of, I know that GMAT and GRE are top topics at the moment. Maybe you could share a little bit about that. And then also in the application, I know people have to kind of give a bit of a rating on their level of expertise on certain things, and Stephanie and I can take that as well, but you know, just from your perspective, what you're looking for.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the GMAT, obviously we said on our website is 690, 700, but my personal advice to any one of you, look at the GMAT as a longer term investment and not just to get into the business school. So if you aim for the 705, 710, what it's actually doing is that it's giving you the edge. So when you are a graduate and you go on to looking at jobs, and let's say I'm competing against Stephanie, and who has a higher GMAT score, but everything else about us is very similar. How are they going to differentiate? So push yourself, really push yourself, and set yourself up, set your bar high. So a GMAT is a prerequisite by all means, and definitely go for the 705, 7010. It's doable. Have faith in yourself and do it. And again, for the GRE, similar sort of like we look at, I do get confused on the scores, but I can come back to you. Email at mam@london.edu, and I can confirm that. But I think about the 160 on both is what we go for. But definitely get that high score. It's your lifelong investment. That's my opinion. And I think, and Alicia, you probably will agree, because it works. You've seen them through.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think that, you know, we look at things on a holistic basis in terms of how we look at the application. And of course, we're building a diverse class too, so that you can learn off each other. So it's not as though that it's a tick box exercise. It's a holistic view on each application. So you want to make sure that your measures in all of those areas are as high as possible. Now, I wonder whether, you know, following on from that, there's questions, a lot of questions, and they're good ones, around the technical level that's expected for the course, and why we've kind of got that question in there. It's more for us to, you know, in terms of the question, to have an understanding. But yes, we do expect that people will have some level of quantitative experience or exposure. It will be a benefit to people on the program. And Stephanie, maybe you can talk from a receiving end.
Yeah, for sure. So there's some, like, I myself have never proficiently coded in R before I started, and the spectrum is quite wide in scale. There are people who came in who were computer scientists, but having had some kind of quantitative skill, whether it's like using Excel, having done some kind of statistical modeling in your undergraduate degree, you'd be surprised what counts and how quantitative you actually are. And it's just being able to articulate that, perhaps. But I don't think that having known Python and R to start was crucial for being successful. It probably would have made my first 3 weeks a lot easier. But there are people who came in from all sorts of backgrounds. Someone came in the background of philosophy, and there are a handful of people who've come in from more quant, like economics and chemical engineering and the story. So you just have to have the inclination to be quantitative and show some evidence, perhaps, that you've done quantitative work.
Yeah, and I think someone adding to that, Stephanie, is you know, someone's asked a really good question around what changes have we made following the first year of MAM, and certainly we've put more pre-program content in for people to have some self-study learning, for them to assess themselves, to stagger some of the learning pre-starting the course, so that they can be in a better position to do that. So that's one of the key kind of takeaways that we heard loud and clear last time. So yeah, again, further preparing people and freeing up people's time when they are there to work on what they need to do, so they're not kind of, you know, frantically spending hours and hours learning how to code if they haven't had exposure to that before.
Oh, super key.
But absolutely, you know, some kind of technical background does help, but it's not the be all and end all. There is opportunity to learn.
Yeah, so my background was, I've never coded myself, but I was surrounded by the technology and I knew what it did. And so that's kind of where my quant came in, was an awareness of the technology, what it could do, and working with a data scientist closely. So it can come in probably different forms for some people.
Brilliant. Stephanie, there's a question very relevant to you. A typical day for a student.
Typical day. Okay.
And actually, just to add to that, there's one which is kind of around, you know, how many courses there are, how many hours you'll be in lectures, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe you can give the full picture of a day and maybe a term.
Yeah, for sure. So when it's in full swing during the first 2 terms, because the last term is more of electives and you get to choose what you do with your time. But when you're in full swing, you could assume maybe 2 courses a day. 2 courses a day. Sorry, fire alarm may be going off. Give me a quick second and make sure that this is not my house. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
It's okay. I can maybe answer some questions. Yes, sorry. Let's success. Oh, let's see.
Sorry, it should be fine. I think it's going to go away.
You sure? Okay, go ahead.
Do you mind the sound? Because if not, I can go on mute.
I'm good.
Go on mute until you're talking, Stephanie. That'll help. There we go.
All right. So there's a rolling. So with regards to applications, we will have rounds of application. The first round is September, end of September, then November, then it'll be early 3 rounds next year. The last round is about mid-May. So we will accept applications on those kind of bases. I would say if you're ready, submit your application. As Nilisha said, it's a holistic approach to the application. We look at each piece. Obviously, every facet of that application plays its important role. And once we have everything from you, then we go on to bringing you on board, dependent on how the application is reviewed. That's done by the admission team. So yes, we will have 5 rounds for 21 intake.
Until Stephanie gets back, perhaps I can answer the one.
Yes, please.
So there's one really, really quick one and then one slightly longer one. And the first one is, would you consider applicants with 3 years of work experience? We wouldn't typically typically have someone on the program with 3 years work experience, given kind of these are early careers programs designed with a specific profile in mind. But it's always worth talking to our recruitment team, and they can kind of work with you on looking at where your application would best sit and whether it's worth waiting another year and applying to another program within LBS. And just following on from that, someone has asked a question about what benefits does a relatively new LBS MAM have when compared to older MS analytics programs offered by other business schools? And I really liked the question, actually. Because, you know, when we were building this program, one of the key things, you know, obviously we're looking at competitors, but we were also looking at gaps in the market. And there's also, even since then, you know, obviously since those older analytics programs typically come out of more, you know, technical schools, you know, they have been followed up with more, which are focused in business analytics and more focused on the business side. I guess for us, what the differentiation is that we have a long-standing history of strength in business, and our faculty have that weight behind them. And what we've been able to do is work with our management science and operations team, but also the contacts that we've got across the organization, our alumni, our practitioners, and bring that technical knowledge into the program with a very, very industry focus, as opposed to it coming from a very quantitative technical background into a business environment. Does that make sense? So business-based, pulling technical experience from industry as opposed to a technical school trying to bring in kind of business theory.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. I think Stephanie can now come in and answer that
Hey,
question.
welcome
Yes,
back.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Day in the
No
life of
fire.
in a
Good to hear.
crowded building. So day in the life, it's quite busy. So let's say there'll be around 2 courses a day, and it'll be pretty much 3-hour lectures. And so those 2 courses will kind of punctuate most of your day, and you'll be in the Sami Offer building, and you'll start off, say, at an 8 a.m. lecture, and you'll go to the Bite or one of the small cafes in the Sami Offer Center, because they have great cafes there and great lounge spaces, and you almost always run into somebody that you know, and you'll end up chatting before class, and then you sit through a lecture with intermittent breaks to the cafe, and in between you're either watching a talk, doing a recruitment event, doing some kind of club event, or coding is more of the MAM specific answer. So especially during the first term, your spaces between classes are kind of spent in the student lounge at the SOC with all of your friends, kind of like digesting what you just learned in lecture and helping each other out. And then after class, if it's a Thursday, I'm sure you may or may not have heard of Sundowners, that will end your day, which is pretty much a time for the LBS community to come together and have drinks, especially on a sunny day on the lawn, and faculty will even come by as well, and EMBAs will be there. So it's a really hodgepodge of the LBS community. So that's a really nice way to end your day. And if not that, then you're very likely doing some kind of other activity. Like for me, I would meet a lot with the Tech and Media Club, and we would plan out the Silicon Valley Trek and things like that, or have meetings with people from, globally around the world about planning some event. So that's a day in the life. And then once recruitment season is in full swing, you're probably casing or you're preparing your interviews with your friends on off hours.
Brilliant, thank you. There's someone asked about the London lab. Would you be able to shed some light on that one, please?
Yeah, the London lab is like a 10-week internship project that you do with a group of students, and you're consulting similar to the gift but a bit drawn out. You're going to be working with some kind of company. I was working with a small green tech startup, and they'll have some kind of business problem, and you'll have to solve it using everything that you've learned in the MAM. And it's a great moment to kind of piece together the entire curriculum and really apply it in a setting where no one's expecting you to do a specific thing or use a specific algorithm. It's you've had the toolkit, now kind of use it. And so it was a refreshing point to really engage with the client and have a very similar experience to what you would have if you were in consulting, and to develop kind of a PowerPoint presentation driven by data. And so it was a lot of back and forth with the client giving us data and us proposing this is what we're going to do with it, and keeping them looped in throughout the 10 weeks and giving them a status updates on the analysis, and that, very organic back and forth that you would have in a consulting setting.
Brilliant. There's a question here, it's anonymous, but would you say the question is, having no work experience makes you a weaker applicant? No, not at all. We look at your undergrad. Basically, when you apply, if you're passionate about this particular program, show that, demonstrate it. What's driving you? What's your vision? Translate that vision into the writing that's as part of your application. So no, having no work experience is not going to work against you. What we look for, and I said, I go back to the holistic approach, we look at every piece of you. And if you are able to show what's motivating you to do the MAM at LBS, definitely, that will help you a lot. And Nalisha, how do you see it once they're a student who haven't come on with work experience? Because I've just given it from recruiting part.
You're right, I think, and I thought actually it picks up a number of questions that are in the chat around this, which is, first of all, like, how do I, which program is the right one for me? MFA,
yes.
MAM, great question. And I think it really depends on what you are looking to immerse yourself in the program, because MAM, all of them have a business thread. Obviously our MIM is very, very general management, And it does have some analytics in there because, as someone's quite rightly recognised, analytics is part of life, and that is integrated, entwined into the program. But it goes, it's a year long. These are year-long programs, and it depends on the weighting. So, for example, on MAM, I would say we have about a 60-40 split of analytics versus business, probably a little bit more. Then on MIM, it's kind of more of a, let's say, 80-20 split. And then, as I said, it depends on your background and what you're looking to do with that. And you can kind of look at the kind of career outputs and the program structures to get an idea of what you want to kind of immerse yourself in on a day-to-day basis, and whether you want to kind of go into something very much more general, or something where you want to a little bit more technical. That it's for you to decide. And then MFA, that is it is a technical program, and it's a technical finance program. And so that is for going into all of the different, and there are so many areas of finance. It also does have a technical, a more technical programming side, particularly if you're looking to go into that area, or if you want to go into fintech, for example. So, there are differentiators between these programs, and I would advise you to really have a look at the program structures, as well as the career aspirations and also outputs of each of these programs to look at where it is that you see yourself fitting within that journey. But yeah, just to echo Hema's sentiments, when we look at the progress and the achievements of people who come on the program, there isn't a disadvantage of not having work experience. There isn't a disadvantage if someone has been involved in lots of activities, has done an internship, not had lots of work experience, versus someone who's had lots of work experience, maybe a slightly lower GMAT. We see no trends in those kind of data, which is why we continue to look at applications very holistically, and we look at what are people looking to get out of this program, and also what they're looking to give back to this community, what they think they can bring into that learning environment for other people, because it doesn't have to just be work experience. It can be a whole host of things that people have worked on. This year we have someone on the MAM who is a trained pilot in his free time, which is lovely. Someone who has been working on AI technology to help people with arthritis turn doorknobs. People have been involved in lots of very, very interesting things, and it doesn't have to be specifically work experience. It can be project related. It can be undergraduate club participation. We're looking for those kind of things which demonstrate that you want to be part of this community and that you want to give back.
Brilliant. God, there's so many questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, but please just direct them to mam@london.edu, because I am mindful of the time and I've got one more slide to just go through. So I'm going to just share the screen a little again. Oopsie daisy, and this is where okay, right. So I'm just going to quickly, so a lot of questions about applications and everything. This is how it's done. For anyone a little bit unsure about where you stand, submit your CV. We will give you, the team will review it, and happy to have a phone consultation, a Zoom consultation, anything, just to go through the whole experience of what you're bringing on board, the application process, what we seek, how to make your application stronger along the way. So yes, submit your CV. We will have a consultation. Please also look out for events like this, and they're very informative. You can connect with current student ambassadors. You can also connect with alums like Stephanie, who are always happy to share their time and then submit the application. I make it sound easy. It is. Have faith in yourself. And like I said, you have a vision, come to LBS and we will deliver that vision. And finally, so this is what the MAM is. It takes you from theory to practice and beyond. So it is the learning intersect between data and business. The idea is that most organizations have senior management who do not necessarily know how to translate data where big decisions are made. This is where you get your learning so that you become that much more better manager as you progress. So it is like the program is designed to communicating data into workable business solutions. That makes you a better leader. Guys, am I Am I hitting it on the nail there? Because it is, right? You get the best of both. You get the management experience, exposure, learning, and then we give you the learning on how to translate figures to make your organization function more effectively. And that's in a nutshell. So we have round one deadline taking place 30th September. Like I said, any questions, direct them to mam@london.edu, mark it for my attention, and submit your application. I am over time, but ladies and gentlemen, 30 seconds. Go ahead, tell me how awesome the program was, and it was. Stephanie, you first.
It was amazing. I mean, definitely exceeded my expectations.
Brilliant. And Nalisha, the person responsible from inception to now, you delivered a fantastic program.
Look, I'm incredibly proud of this program. I'm incredibly proud of all of our early careers and actually LBS and how we've been able to adapt and respond to our changing landscape, and we will continue to evolve and make these programs, you know, relevant for any time that they exist within, and it's really important that we work with all of our community on that, and I hope to welcome many of you into the community soon.
Brilliant. Once again, thank you both ladies. You've been absolutely awesome. And ladies and gentlemen out there, thank you once again for taking the time to come to our event. Good day. Bye-bye.